This video is going to serve as my second and final preview, obviously, for the Ravens and Bengals Thursday night football matchup. It's a key matchup on both sides. Obviously, the Bengals come in 5-4. The Ravens are 7-3, and certainly Ravens fans, we all feel like we should be 8-2 or 9-1, somewhere in that area. But teams generally feel that across all levels of football. These two teams have been locked onto each other in some classic battles the last 2 years in the regular season and then one in the playoffs. Of course, it was won by the Bengals when they prevailed in an epic 24-17 win in, I think, January of this year. That came after the teams had split two regular season meetings in 2022 regular season. The Ravens scratched out a 19-17 win in Week 5 before the Bengals defeated a Lamar-less Ravens team a little bit more convincingly in the final regular season game. However, the Ravens defense was able to display for the second time last year that they were able to limit, I don't want to say control, but they were able to limit Joe Burrow by exerting both mental and physical pressure on him. One thing that's been consistent in that regard has been limiting his total passing yards and yards per attempt. For tonight, can they do that again? You have to think at some point it's tough to hold down a great player, regardless of the sport. For me, this rivalry and where we are right now, Thursday night football, the Bengals don't want to drop to 5-5, and we certainly don't want to drop to 7-4. This reminds me of an NBA conference finals that's in Game 5, which this one is, if you look at Mike Macdonald versus the Bengals. We're tied at 2-2 in my comparison, and whoever wins this one doesn't win the series, the regular season, but takes a big step towards a playoff berth and stays, atop the AFC North standings, in terms of the Ravens, at least in the loss column. The team that loses, especially if it's the Bengals, is now looking up at a stacked conference and has an uphill battle just at a wildcard berth, if you ask me. The last 4 games, let's talk about stats, and then we'll do some coverages. It's going to be a lot of coverages that I show you. My attempt is to try to show you how the Ravens exert mental pressure on Burrow. It's not that they confuse him. That's an oversimplification. They try to present him with multiple equations to solve in 2.5 or 2.7 seconds after the ball is snapped repeatedly. In the last 4 games, so week 2 of the regular season this year and the 3 from 2022, Burrow's got 863 passing yards total against the Ravens. Here they are, 217, 215, 209, that's week 18 regular season last year, and then 222 in the wild card game. They just do a nice job of mixing things up and forcing him to throw the ball either underneath or shorter routes. He did seem to catch on, if you ask me, in the second half of week 2. I think they scored 2 touchdowns, and he looked a lot smoother, and things looked more clean. Overall, in those 4 games, Burrow is 99 of 150 passing, so 66%. But the key stat for me is 5.7 yards per pass attempt. Now, Burrow, for his career, is at 7.4 yards per pass attempt. I'm not talking about adjusted, just raw. I think his second year, Jamar Chase's rookie year, he led the league in yards per attempt. I think it was 8.4, 8.6. Feel free to look it up. This year, he's averaging a career low yards per attempt, 6.3. So I'm very interested in how that dynamic, that element, I should say, plays out. He does have 5 touchdowns and 2 interceptions in the 4 games. What do we need to do? We need to stop or slow down the running game. In 2023 so far, the Bengals offense has 1 game of 100 yards rushing. It doesn't mean that they can't run the football. I feel like there's times where they're less committed to it. I do. And I wonder why that is, because I think Joe Mixon's pretty talented. And the one game they did rush for 100 yards was 134 yards against the 49ers in a week 8 win on the road. As it stands, they average 75 rushing yards per game. If someone offered that to me right now, as a Ravens fan rooting for the Ravens to win tonight, I would take it. Even though that's their average, and they certainly could come in lower than that. We've held them to lower in the last 4 games generally. We also need to be sound in coverage while being multiple, and that's the point of this video. And create pressure on Burrow, both physical pressure in the pass rush and mental pressure through being multiple. So let's take a look at some of what we've done in the last 2 years. These are going to be packaged by structure or coverage, I should say. The first 2 is our 4 under two deep coverage. Now, we showed it twice in week 2 against the Bengals. So what that means is, just through sheer math, is that we're bringing 5. And then we're playing a somewhat unusual cover too. It's not unusual. I mean, people do it. You just don't see it as often. Normally it's 5 under. And additionally, normally when you're doing it, you're not dropping out a guy like Jadeveon Clowney. Clowney did a nice job dropping out in this game. You can see it's a very well thrown ball by Burrow into the hole shot up the sideline. And in this case, Smith is able to make a really nice catch, but Ardarius Washington, I think, is there to force him out of bounds. Doesn't get a second foot down. It's a nice throw. Also, this is 3rd and 8. This appears to be a coverage that Macdonald wants to play on 3rd and between medium and long. Last week against the Browns, played the same coverage. What was the down and distance? 3rd and 11. This is not going to be a fun one to watch, but it is our 2 deep, 4 under coverage, which Macdonald played often at Michigan. I want to say often, 3-4 times a game, I thought. Not showing it as much on a per-game basis in the NFL. But when we have seen it, it's normally been a 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9, in this case 3rd and 11. Number 1. Number 2, it's also been from a mug heavy pressure look. So pre-snap, you're normally getting this alignment, and then people are dropping out to the 2 deep, 4 under look. So that's one of the coverages that we could play, and hopefully we do a better job of taking angles and tackling than we did on this particular play. All right, some man examples from the last 2 years, and obviously, as you can tell, there's going to be some film shown from games not against the Bengals. So he will take the one-on-one if he sees man. This is Rock Ya-Sin up top against Jamar Chase. It's a great job by Rock Ya-Sin, if you ask me. Kyle Hamilton is backside of the trips, so you got trips down here. I think Roquan is just inside leverage of 3 and then passing him off to Geno Stone and man. Because this is Jamar Chase, I think Kyle Hamilton's backside trying to help Ya-Sin. Makes sense. We're going to go into this game without Marlon Humphrey, obviously. Now, they don't have T. Higgins, but Brandon Stevens, Rock Ya-Sin, if Burrow's able to identify that it's man pre-snap easily, then he's going to attack up the sideline. That's what he's going to do. He's going to get the ball out quick, and he's going to give his receivers a chance to make plays. He's a distributor, and I mean that in a complimentary sense. From an NBA player comparison, he's not a point guard that's going to score 26, 28, 30 points a game in an NBA Conference Finals series, but he's a guy who can give you a consistent 18 or 20 and distribute the ball. 2022, we often showed man and then switched to other coverages. In this case, this is a different version of man, if you ask me. I think we're man on 1 to both sides, and then I think we're reading and reacting to 2. So the slot receiver up top, and then the tight end who's in the slot down bottom. You can see Calais Campbell's able to split through the double team and get a quarterback hit. This is a 3rd down. One of the things we've got to be able to do is, A, be multiple in coverage, and B, give the O-line multiple looks. The mental pressure of Burrow is, even when we don't have pressure sometimes, he's getting rid of the football. He's a good quarterback. He's smart. He's getting rid of it on time according to the routes that are being run and the concepts that he's reading. What we've got to do is try to accelerate that by 10 to 15%, somewhere in there, which to me impacts his ability to get to the 3rd read even when there's not pressure. Hopefully I'm saying that in a way that makes sense. He knows that we can get pressure. I think we have 9 sacks against him in the last 4 games. Again, this is taking the one-on-one. This is this year. Brandon Stevens down bottom against Jamar Chase. A really weak pass interference call, if you ask me, but he's definitely got hands-on, so I'm comfortable with it. As long as they're going to be consistent. We do have hands-on here, so we're going to call it. He's going to let guys make plays. He's going to get the ball out quick. If he's got a one-on-one, why go through the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd progression if you know that outside you've got guys who can make plays? When they don't have T. Higgins out here, that changes the dynamic a little bit. But he's done a nice job, at least in the Bills game. I didn't watch a lot of film of the Texans game. In the Bills game, he did a really nice job of distributing the ball to some new players, some different guys whose names we may not know. This is a third down conversion by the Browns last week against man. It's going to be a China out by Cooper against Marlin. It's a big moment. I think third quarter, big conversion. We're able to get the stop here. They're clearly punting from their own 30-yard line. We didn't stop them once in the second half. So our defense, has to be multiple, get pressure, mental and physical on Burrow, slow or stop the running game completely, and then also be able to play 60 minutes, not get worn down. I thought we were gassed in that third quarter. Of course, they did have a long drive, don't get me wrong, but this has been an issue for us, is that sometimes I wonder about how multiple we are and how much movement we do, if that contributes to our guys getting tired late in games. I don't think that's the only issue. I'm just saying that might be one of the 4 or 5 issues as to why it continues to happen. But in any case, look, second half, the Browns, touchdown, field goal on their 3 drives. Is there anything in there that the Bengals are going to be able to recreate? I'm not sure. I don't offer to you to have all of the answers, but I do know we've got to be able to play 60 minutes. All right, let's move on to a different coverage, cover 3. In some cases, you've got the drop outside linebacker getting into the flat. So I'm talking about Clowney, curl, and then flats if a flat route shows up. Generally to the boundary is how we're doing this. This is week 2 this year. Great collision and hit by Geno Stone. Great reaction. It's a zone turn up top by Stevens. So you can see his back and his butt are to the sideline versus a man turn down here to the bottom side. Your four under relationship is going to be these 4 guys. I'm including this safety. He's dropping down. 2nd and 14 is a cover 3 down for us from a Mike Macdonald perspective, trying to classify the coverages for you by down and distance. I really want to do all Ravens coverages that I have film of and get a real good idea of not just down and distance, but location on the field. And you can see, again, Burrow's going to get rid of the ball quick and give his guys chances to catch the football and make plays. It would be wonderful to get a deflected pass, a pass tipped by a defensive lineman, which we have done against him and many other quarterbacks, and get a cheap interception. I say cheap, meaning something that's not legitimately a one-on-one win. We played a lot of cover 3 in 2022 against him. We played a lot of looks in 2022 against him that looked like other things. Now, this happens to be a different version of cover 3 in terms of what we're doing to get to 4th rusher. Clowney drops out, and he ends up being too deep, and Burrow takes advantage of it. But we're getting a blitz off the edge by Ardarius Washington, and then Kyle Hamilton's replacing him, so he's the safety that's spinning down. The other safety, Geno Stone, is spinning to center field, middle of the field. You can see our 4 under is these 4 guys right here. Looks like a man call on the backside here, which is quite typical when you get 3 by 1 formations, either bunch or trips. Geno cancels out that backside go. It's going to be an interesting dynamic to see how things get accomplished in their passing game without T. Higgins. Madubuike misses the sack. Burrow is able to jump over the top of him. Still only ends up being 5 yards, and I think Clowney carried the curl flat, too deep there. Wild card game last year. Snag flat concept up to the top by Chase and Mixon. Quick decision by Burrow. This is the area to attack in a cover 3, but we backside, we play man to it. So Marlin is actually releasing Chase inside. So there appears to be some type of switch on the backside here to a zone. And you also don't have, Marcus Williams working hard to get to the middle of the field. I do wonder if that's because he sees Burrow looking to that side. I do worry about stuff like this, which they've beat us on before. If we're going to roll the boundary side safety to be the middle of the field guy to the wide side, if we're going to be so heavily reading the quarterback, I worry about stuff where Burrow pump fakes to one side and then comes back to a designed location up top. This is a 2nd and 3, so a little bit anomalous in terms, or 2nd and 4, 3-yard gain. It's a little bit anomalous in terms of us playing cover 3. We're generally a long down and distance thing. 2nd down, 14, 3rd down, 11, stuff like that. I think Burrow's reading Queen. Queen doesn't expand enough, in Burrow's opinion, to go defend the running back, and I think Burrow believes that we're playing man backside. So there may not have been a man call on the backside for Marlin, and that's why he's getting off, releasing Chase to the hook area. And if And if that is the case, then Queen is just making a nice job, doing a nice job of not expanding because he's in zone. He's in zone relationship, and then seeing the ball through and taking off. And additionally, Marlon pursues at a great angle, and I think we stop him short of the first down here. Cover 3 again in the wild card game. And this is a 4-man rush, but the outside linebacker drops to the field this time. Obviously, Clowney's not on our team. In this case, it's JPP is the boundary side outside linebacker. I showed you a couple of instances of that guy dropping out and then us, blitzing someone from the other side or maybe a nickel. In this case, we drop the the field side outside linebacker. Roquan takes over Queen's area, and Queen blitzes B-gap. So it ends up being cover 3, but it's just a different way to get to it, and it gives Burrow different reads in terms of who's blitzing, what space is available. When I say mental pressure, this is exactly what I mean. I've shown you, I think, 4 plays of cover 3, and you got 3 separate ways that we get to it. The players have to be able to execute it all in the first, second, third, and fourth quarter. And what it does, if we can, is it forces Burrow to go through his read progressions or reading space quickly because he has no idea where the blitz is coming from. He's focused on the reads downfield. You can see Queen is just destroying the running back on his way to Burrow, disrupts the whole thing. I think JPP and a D tackle split the sack. One more cover 3 from the wild card game. Owe is going to occupy the left tackle up to the top side of the screen, and Hamilton blitzes off the edge. So what that does when Hamilton blitzes off the edge is it forces Houston to take an inside rush lane through B-gap. Additionally, Owe is just occupying this left tackle, and then he's going to drop out to the curl flats, to the boundary, very similar to what I described with Clowney. You get a great look at what I'm talking about, but it's still cover 3. It's still 4 under, and it's still 3 deep. Now, Owe's, the outside linebacker dropping out, so that's one of the reasons why, he's not at the same depth as these other guys. It makes sense. He doesn't take pass drops as often as they do. It's a switch thing. It's a thing where we're showing one look and then getting to another. So we're sacrificing some efficiency in terms of the depth of the drop and the quality of his reactions. But in any case, Justin Houston gets a sack in his last game that he played for us, unfortunately. All right, moving on from cover 3. We do a lot of things from a 2-high platform. Obviously, it's the basis of all of our versatility and obfuscation. I think you've got a man on one call to both of these sides. So our quarter split field stuff oftentimes is man on number 1, regardless of call. Sometimes it's man everywhere he goes unless he goes inside first or whatever the call is. It could change that rule. So our DBs have to know the rule, number 1, and then react to the rule, number 2. We end up bracketing the number 3 receiver here, and then that leaves Higgins with Roquan Smith and the backside safety to get involved, which we know how this play ends. There's no pressure. There's no pressure here at all on Burrow from a physical sense. This is just he's trying to make a play. We're very fortunate. I don't want to say fortunate. I'm glad that we got this interception because were they to go down and score here, that changes the dynamic of this game. Burrow, maybe you could say he put more zip on that ball, but Geno Stone's still going to be there. The point is Burrow has to go through these reads quickly, not knowing what coverage we're playing because we're being as multiple as possible. Mike Macdonald's going to stretch us as much as he can until such time that we are compromised defensively from the standpoint of playing too many coverages. So far against the Bengals, that has not been the case. Week 2 again this year, 3rd and 9. And you get some reroute down at the bottom side of the screen, a great tackle by Queen from an inside leverage. You get some reroute here by Darby, pushing one in, and then I think Ardarius makes contact here. So they're trying to funnel those guys into the safety. No physical pressure on the quarterback at all. Ojabo's falling down, but Burrow has a mental clock in there to get it out. Get through his reads, and he checks it down to the running back. We get a stop. I think it was a 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9. Last year from a 2-high structure, well, sometimes it wasn't from a 2-high structure. Sometimes it was from a 1-high structure, and then getting to a 2-high structure post-snap. We played a lot of Tampa too. That's what the league was doing at the time in terms of defending the Bengals at the time that we played them in Week 5, 2002. So what we did was we showed a lot of different looks, man looks, cover 3 looks, one high looks, and then we rolled to Tampa 2 often, and that gave them problems. Myself personally, leading into the regular season finale last year, I was a little concerned. I was like, okay, we're not going to be able to just play Tampa 2. I think I had it 13, 14 times in Week 5. In this case, you got one of the safeties being the Mike linebacker, essentially. Harrison and Queen are on the hash. Harrison, maybe could be a little bit wider. Then here's your 2 safeties deep. Peters up to the top side is clearly taking a man turn, but sometimes you take a man turn in a Tampa 2, and then you just release him. So you're making it look like man turn over here in case the quarterback's looking, and then you release him up to the safety. D-line's job has got to be able to get there. We did a lot of that Tampa 2. I would expect to see it at least twice during this game. Another Tampa 2 disguised. This is a sack by Josh Bynes, a 2nd and 7, again, back in Week 5 of 2022. Clark is in the box as an inside linebacker. We're going to drop out both OLBs, and then the 4 rushers is these 3 interior linemen and Bynes. And this was a blitz that we had not shown a lot, and it opened up, parted like the Red Sea. Clark is becoming the middle of the field Mike. So anything vertical, he would be assigned to run with. Flat player, outside in leverage. You can see the 2 high structure post snap, and it works. Am I saying that we're going to be able to do this all night Thursday night? No, but we've got to be multiple. It's a large scale task to be this multiple. And so far, Mike Macdonald's done a nice job, at least against the Bengals, of not stretching us too thin. Another Tampa 2 from that game. This is a 3rd and 8. Look, we're not confusing Burrow. If there's any Bengals fans that have listened this long, this is not meant to say, hey, we're confusing Joe Burrow. No, we're slowing his mental processing down by 10, 12, 15% at the most, probably enough such that there's other factors that start to develop during the play, and he decides this is the best option. Now it's wide open on a 3rd and 8, but that's the design of it. And in this case, Marcus Peters does a great job tackling Hayden Hurst, who's since moved on. I thought he played quite well for them when he was available. More 2 high stuff, 2 more plays of this. Week 2 again this year, it's a 2nd and 8. We're showing a cover 2 shell, but this is not Tampa, if you ask me. Burrow gets it out quick to Higgins down here at the bottom side against Brandon Stevens. There's no pass rush that forces him to throw the ball, and I'm going to talk about this in a minute. Oweh, I think, is the guy, along with Clowney and Van Noy and Matabike. Oweh is the guy who I think can get some organic pressures on Burrow, create more of that physical pressure in an organic manner, that not requiring us to run stunts and stuff like that. Short gain, I think, of 3. Against the Browns, we were too high. When I say too high, I mean TOO, not 2, the number 2. We were too high, creating too much space between the second-level defenders and the routes, and the Browns took advantage. Amari Cooper, just far more space than we would like to give him there, and we certainly don't want to leave that type of space to anyone on the Bengals. But look, when you have a receiver who threatens vertically, that has an influence, don't get me wrong. I also, obviously think that perhaps Marcus Williams being physically compromised on his left side upper body plays an impact. Oweh would be the guy, along with Clowney, Van Noy, and Matabike, that I think could change this game dramatically. We want to be able to bring 4 and get pressure. We want to be able to bring 4 and be very sound and multiple on the back end, get some physical pressure on him on the same plays where he's got mental pressure. That to me impacts the following play, and you get checkdowns quicker. Oweh can do these type of things against whoever he's matched up against tonight. Then it gives us a great chance to generate organic pressures and put Burrow in a position where he's trying to process things, and he's worried about whether the O-line is going to be able to hold up. I don't think we want to resort to a ton of 5- and 6-man pressures here. Again, when Burrow sees man, he's going to immediately look to attack outside, and I think he should. I think we're playing well out there, very well. There's no question about that. But the Bengals, have to change the dynamic. How do they do that? What are the different options? Run game. perhaps they could run the ball a little bit more, and Joe Mixon's got talent. Throws down the sideline, gets some chunk completion, 16, 18 yards down the sideline where it's a one-on-one. I'm interested to see if they come out in some different personnel groups. They do a lot of 11 personnel in the shotgun. Are they going to be under center more? Will they use some 12 personnel? I think they have options, even without Higgins, to go to and be a little bit more multiple than just, hey, it's 11 personnel twin slot, 11 personnel trips left, trips right, 11 personnel flex, which is just 2x2 spread formation. Though, if that's what they're going to come out there and do, then this is the game that's going to occur. And from the standpoint of the chess match that Mike Macdonald's going to try to present and force Burrow to process things quickly. I wish I was able to get this out sooner on Thursday. The Thursday Night Football dynamic changes the schedule and pace of everything. Normally, these would be a Saturday morning thing. Saturday morning will now be film study stuff from tonight's game. You guys let me know what you think of the video. I'm not sure that I touched on everything I wanted to, but trying to show you the multiplicity, the versatility, I should say, of the Ravens' coverages, particularly against the Bengals, and how I think it's had an impact on Joe Burrow, on where he throws the football and how far down the field he throws, forcing them to execute up and down the field, which they've done at times, don't get me wrong. Appreciate you guys' time. Let me know what you think of the video in the comment section. If you think other Ravens fans would enjoy this content, this film study look at the Ravens' defense against Joe Burrow and the Bengals, then please consider grabbing a link to this video, sharing it out on social media to help this content get more reach.